Hello, I'm Aaron Katursky. We're coming on the air with breaking news now. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's holding a press conference on the Uvalde Elementary School shooting that left 21 people dead, including 19 students, most only 10 years old. Here's Governor Abbott at Uvalde High School.
May not lie, but also benefits that would aid anybody who lives has been affected by this horrific crime. And through these state agencies that you will be hearing more about here shortly, you will see that we have, as a state, tremendous benefits that can aid those who are suffering and those who will continue to suffer, sometimes for many years. One thing I must emphasize, and that is we are going through short-term challenges right now. The reality is many of the challenges will be long-term challenges. Texas stands with Uvalde for the long term in helping every single person in this community be able to piece their lives back together, to heal as much as they possibly can. We will be here as long as it takes. Among other things, I know that there have already been some offerings to ensure that cost of funerals will be taken care of. During the course of the meeting, there was an anonymous donor who attended the meeting and provided $175,000 to ensure that every cost of every family concerning anything about the funeral services is going to be taken care of. We appreciate that anonymous donor for his generosity, and we will ensure that those resources get into the right hands to make sure that no family who is suffering from incalculable heartbreak at this time will have to worry about a single cost with regard to anything concerning this travesty. Now, in addition to that, there are all kinds of needs as well as all kinds of services. One of the needs is need for mental health care. And we have an abundance of mental health care services that we are going to be able to provide. That includes state and private providers that will be providing mental health assistance to anyone in the community who needs it. And when I say anyone, that means the totality of anybody who lives in this community. We believe that you would benefit from mental health care services. Those mental health care services are free. We just want you to ask for them. The way that you can ask for them, whether it be today, tomorrow, next month, or next year, is this number: 888-690-0799. Mental health care can be reached by calling 888-690-0799. That helpline will be answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whenever you need it. In addition to that, I am announcing the establishment of the One Star Foundation Fund to assist with the ongoing challenges that would be faced by the victims of this crime. To put this into perspective, to help you understand how this works, we opened up a fund like this in the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey to assist all of the thousands of victims of Hurricane Harvey and received millions of dollars in support that went to those who faced challenges because of Hurricane Harvey. The exact same thing applies here. Right here is the address. It's onestarfoundation.org. onestarfoundation.org. To be more precise, if you go to onestarfoundation.org/Uvalde, you make a contribution at that site that is already a pre-registered 501c3 organization, provide a donation to that site. There is no overhead cost. 100% of the money that you donate is going to be going directly to victims of this horrible crime to help them with their lives. One of the pre-designated donation sites that it would be going to is the Robb School Memorial Fund. So again, the onestarfoundation.org.uvalde. Well, you can do your part to help out the people in this community that are suffering in incalculable ways. In addition to that, we have set up a central headquarters for victim assistance services at the Family Assistance Center located at the Uvalde County Fairplex. As we'll discuss probably here momentarily, there may be a relocation of that site, and we will keep everybody fully informed about where the relocation site will be. Every family impacted by the shooting has been assigned an advocate to help them with their needs. Among other things, there will be airfare, for example, whether it be through American Airlines, United Airlines, or JetBlue Airlines, that will provide victims' families with flights free of charge so that they can get here and be with their family members. The Family Assistance Center will cover the travel and lodging costs of families who have lost loved ones. Healthcare costs of families impacted by this tragedy will also be covered by Texas insurance companies and donations from private citizens. The Texas Housing and Community Affairs, for example, they have a fund to pay for needed supplies right now, whether it be food or gas or other essential needs. And that money is available right now as we speak. Also, at the Family Assistance Center, the Health and Human Services Commission, who you'll be hearing from more here in a second, they will assist families in finding health and human benefit programs. Staff from the Texas Department of Insurance, the Teachers Retirement System, the Employees Retirement System will provide access to benefits, including workers' compensation. Staff from the Texas Workforce Commission are available to get families child care and unemployment benefits. And state staff are available to provide assistance to business owners impacted by this tragedy. Healing the broken hearts, it's going to take a long time. But through the generosity of our fellow Texans and the good works of neighbors helping neighbors, we can begin to stitch back together the fabric of Uvalde. Helping us to do that is the leader of Uvalde himself, and that is the mayor of Uvalde, who I would like to ask to speak at this time.
Governor, I'd like to thank you for bringing all these state agencies here and the services you've offered our community, our citizens, because these families are going to need this help, not just today, but in the long term, as you mentioned. So for that, Governor, I appreciate, and all I can say is I've seen you these last 2 days, and the compassion and that you felt along with these families, and that I really admire it. I thank you, and like I said, and we appreciate everybody from all over the world and the country that has sent messages of encouragement and so forth. I mean, our hearts are broken here in Uvalde. It's nobody ever wants to have to go through this, especially as a mayor. I never thought this was something I would have to go through. My heart's broken for these families. But the one good thing about our community is Uvalde is a strong community. I think if some of you reporters have been here a while enough, you'll see that there's a lot of unity in our community. And it will take some time, but we will get over this, and Uvalde will come back stronger and better than ever. So God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And someone who has been actively engaged in helping the victims of crime already and will remain engaged all the way through is the District Attorney, Christina Mitchell.
Thank you, Governor, for being here. And we want to thank everybody that's reached out to us in Uvalde from across the state, from across the country, and across the world. We greatly appreciate all the support and kind words and prayers and assistance that has been sent to us. And like the mayor said, here in Uvalde County, we are down-to-earth people, we are salt-of-the-earth people, and we are a family. And like a family, we're going to get through this together with each other and for each other, and we're asking everybody across the world to continue to support us. So I, the district attorney, along with the FBI victims assistance people, the DPS victim assistance people, the attorney general's office, we have set up a family assistance center at the Uvalde County Fairplex here in Uvalde. And at that center, it's a one-stop shop for all the victims. And we say victims, we mean everybody that was associated with Robb Elementary School. And when you come there, you're going to meet with a counselor. You're going to meet with all the services that the state has to offer, funeral services, Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Mexican consulate is there, the Red Cross is there, and we're there to provide all the services any family may need. And if you need something that's not there, then let me know and we will find it for you. And that's going to be open and continue until June the 1st. We are open from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. There's also food there and a play center for children. And please come and see us. Any victims, anybody that needs help, please come there. It's a resource for everybody. There's also a victim services center at the Civic Center that's run by the school district, and that's for anybody affected in the school district, and they have that services there. So we thank everybody. We appreciate your support, and please keep our victims in your prayers, these families of the deceased children and school teachers, and keep us strong. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'm going to call up 7 leaders of seven different state agencies to give you a very brief explanation of what their particular agency does. There are more than 7 that are involved in this process, but we're calling up these 7. First is the Health and Human Services Commissioner, Cecily Young.
Good afternoon. I'm Cecily Young, and I'm the Executive Commissioner at the Health and Human Services Commission. We do Medicaid, CHIP, and SNAP, and we have eligibility assistance available at the Family Assistance Center, and we'll continue to have eligibility assistance available on an ongoing basis once we move into the next phase of this. Additionally, as the Governor mentioned, we have an 888 number. It's for mental health services. It's 888-690-0799. This is run by the Hill Country Local Mental Health Authority. So it is local. It is a 24-hour, 7 days a week call center that is able to connect people with services, with counseling, medication, counseling services, and telepsychiatry services. And they will be able to ensure that anyone in the community that calls in will be connected to other available mental health services. So it is a way to triage, again, to try to make it as easy as possible for the members of the community.
Thank you. Next is the Texas Department of Insurance Commissioner, Cassie Brown.
Good afternoon. I'm Cassie Brown. I serve as the Commissioner of Insurance for the Texas Department of Insurance. TDI is here to ensure that insurance companies are appropriately and quickly handling claims. What our department does is oversee the health insurance as well as the workers' compensation insurance claims. So if you are going to, if you're a private sector employee, if you're a public sector employee, those employed by the school district or those first responders, they're going to have workers' compensation coverage. Private sector employees should check with their employer to see if they carry workers' comp. Workers' comp covers mental illness and PTSD. So please make sure that you are taking advantage of that benefit for you. We have staff available at the Fairplex Center to help you start the process for processing your workers' compensation claims and to explain all the benefits that are available to you under the system. Thank you.
Thank you. And now from the Teachers Retirement System, Brian Guthrie.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Guthrie. I'm the Executive Director of the Teacher Retirement System of Texas. We are here today to not only help the families of the 2 teachers who tragically lost their lives and provide them the benefits that they are due, but also to help all the employees of not only this school district, but all the surrounding school districts to make sure that they have access to mental health and behavioral health services. We also recognize that not all the employees of these districts are members of our system and are for our health care program, but we want to thank our partners, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Teladoc, for extending those benefits to everyone who's employed in this district or any of the surrounding districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the Texas Employees Retirement System, Porter Wilson.
Hi, I'm Porter Wilson, the
State
Executive Director
officials
of the
in
Employees
Uvalde,
Retirement
Texas,
System of
are
Texas.
updating the resources that are being brought to bear to help the victims of the school shooting at Robb Elementary School that left 21 people dead, 19 students and 2 teachers. The governor is saying that the funerals have all been paid for by an anonymous donor. He's speaking about the mental health assistance that's available, a fund that's being set up to assist the victims, and the heads of all the state agencies that are appropriate are bringing all their resources to bear and letting the community know what's available. So far, the governor has not addressed some of the misstatements that he made at the outset of the investigation, or his characterization of law enforcement officers that he said saved lives. That may be a different portrayal than what was said by the Texas Department of Public Safety earlier today, when they outlined the wrongful assumption that there was no longer a risk to children. That's why they held the tactical team from going into the classroom for 35 minutes. Our White House correspondent, ABC's Mary Alice Parks, is with us. Mary Alice, the governor is obviously in a position here to do what governors do, and that is bring resources to bear to an afflicted community. He also does have some questions to answer.
Yeah, Aaron, to the first part of that, though, what we're seeing right now unfold, all these representatives from these state agencies do remind me that while so much of the attention, rightly so, is on the victims, those who lost their lives, the families of those who lost their lives, it's a reminder that such a horrific act like this, such an unbelievable assault in a community, has ripple effects, trauma. You can imagine the trauma that everyone else is facing, every other student that might have made it out of that school with their life but had to experience something so horrific. Every other parent that might have at least had their child come home but had to think about what happened, had to worry like that. It just strikes me listening to this, just how a community like that will be scarred for so long, and the lasting trauma of such unbelievable violence. But you're right. Then we're waiting for the governor to take questions, because there are a lot of questions that he still has to answer to try to explain this unbelievable timeline, try to explain why it was that law enforcement waited to go in, waited to breach that door. A question of what he's going to do now that it looks like protocol was not followed, or to try to understand how that decision was made. Aaron.
ABC's Mary Alice Parks, our White House correspondent. Mary Alice, we know in that very community this weekend, President Biden is going to be visiting with some of the victims' families on the eve of the anniversary of his own son, Beau's death. This is going to be quite an emotional moment for the president, I would imagine.
Really around the clock, since this
believes that just his presence can be powerful, that he often really literally likes to lend a shoulder to cry on. He wants to be there when people are grieving and when the nation is grieving. And I think that's mostly what is on his agenda. He wants to talk to families, to victims, to community leaders and faith leaders, and just show love and support. This is something the president often does, Aaron.
Mary Alice Parks, our White House correspondent. Let's return you to Uvalde High School and Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Be able to help them with any and all of their needs. I cannot overemphasize enough that everybody, students, teachers, law enforcement, everybody in this community, please avail yourself of absolutely free mental health care. It'll pay off in the long run. With that, I'll be happy to take a few questions. Go ahead. Sure. So, I'll directly answer your questions. Before I start answering questions unrelated to the discussion that we've had about the benefits that we're providing to the community, let's take those questions first. I'll come back to you first. Go ahead. I'll put you second in the queue. Let me make clear, maybe I wasn't clear. Before I start taking questions unrelated to the benefits that we're providing to the community, we have an obligation as a state to communicate to the people of this community the benefits that are available to them. Their lives are crushed. They have no idea what's going on. They may have no idea whatsoever how they're going to pay a bill. Let me give you an easy example of something explained to me. There was a parent who lost some glasses that were crushed in everything that happened. And he told someone he had no money to pay for it. We have money to pay for that stuff. There are people who have no idea about getting food. We have money that can buy them food. Let's discuss, if you have any questions about these benefits. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. But if there's anybody here.
Governor, with all due respect, 3 days this community has heard versions of the story based in large part on what you told them on Wednesday afternoon that these officers had acted with amazing courage. Today we learned that 19 officers stood in the hallway of that school for nearly an hour while the gunman was inside with those children, which goes against what
Sure.
they've been
And I'm sure I'm going to be answering that. That's his.
No,
I'm going to fully answer it because that's what he asked. And I'm going to answer his question first. Hold on. I understand. Is there anybody here who has any question about the benefits that are being provided to anybody here who's suffered because of this crime? All right. So let me answer your question. So your question. No, I remember it. Short answer, yes. I was misled. I am livid about what happened. I was on this very stage 2 days ago, and I was telling the public information that had been told to me in a room just a few yards behind where we're located right now. I wrote down hand notes in detail about what everybody in that room told me in sequential order about what happened. And when I came out here on this stage and told the public what happened, it was a recitation of what people in that room told me, whether it be law enforcement officials or non-law enforcement officials, whatever the case may be. And as everybody has learned, the information that I was given turned out in part to be inaccurate. And I'm absolutely livid about that. And here's my expectation. My expectation is that the law enforcement leaders that are leading the investigations, which includes the Texas Rangers and the FBI, they get to the bottom of every fact with absolute certainty. There are people who deserve answers the most, and those are the families whose lives have been destroyed. They need answers that are accurate, and it is inexcusable that they may have suffered from any inaccurate information whatsoever. And it is imperative that the leaders of the investigations about exactly what happened get down to the very second of exactly what happened with 100% accuracy and explain it to the public, but most importantly, to the victims who've been devastated. He had a backup question. I'm coming to you next. I'm coming to you next.
Are you worried that bond of trust has been ruptured and it's going to be a long time before there is sort of that bond of trust?
My expectation is that as we speak and every minute going forward, law enforcement is going to earn the trust of the public by doing exactly what they're supposed to do from this point on, and that is making sure that they thoroughly, exhaustively investigate exactly what happened and explain to you and the public and the victims of the crime exactly what happened. I told this guy I was coming to him next.
We're going to call a special session to deal with this, specifically the issue of gun violence. Both Republicans are joining the Democrats and asking for one. And is there going to be any specific legislation to come out of that? For example, will you roll back some of the liberalizations that we made in gun ownership and gun usage, such as so-called constitutional care. That's a big issue for a lot of people.
Sure.
I feel like that man should never have had a gun.
Well, let me answer your second question first. So in your second question, you talked about the rollback of any of the legislation that I signed this past session. Let's be clear about one thing. None of the laws that I signed this past session had any intersection with this crime at all. No law that I signed allowed him to get a gun, the gun that he did get. And so, again, there was nothing about the laws from this past session that has any relevancy to the crime that occurred here. With regard to special session, let me just say this, and that is, first of all options are on the table. Second, most importantly, to your point, do we expect laws to come out of this devastating crime? The answer is absolutely yes. And there will be laws in multiple different subject areas. For example, I do fully expect to have every law that we pass in the aftermath of the Santa Fe shooting to be completely revisited. And first, we need to gain the information about exactly what happened at the school to find out the extent to which those laws were complied with, to the extent that they were not complied with, to find out what shortcomings allowed this travesty to occur. Then second, we need to have a discussion and pass laws to make sure that our schools are safer. And the people of Uvalde, but the people of Texas deserve that. Second, as I was discussing 2 days ago, you can expect robust discussion, and my hope is laws passed that I will sign addressing health care in this state. There is an array of health care issues that we face as a state in general, but there are an array of health care issues that relate to those who commit gun crimes in particular. Those need to be addressed, whether it be the health care issues that I talked publicly here with the mayor about 2 days ago and that would affect the community in general, or whether it be laws that address the challenges that are now surfacing that this killer had in his life that lead to someone doing what he did. And then there will be all other kinds of issues. But there will be committees formed. There will be meetings held. There will be proposals that will be derived, many of which will lead to laws that will be passed in the state of Texas. Because let me make one thing perfectly clear. The status quo is unacceptable. This crime is unacceptable. We're not going to be here and talking about it and do nothing about it. We will be looking for the best laws that we can get passed to make our communities and schools safer.
One of the laws that ends up being proposed or passed. We had an AD source tell us today that you spend $100 billion on mental health care, but without universal background checks, it's worthless. Somebody gets screwed, somebody will do it again, and really, I'm going to stop it and help this from happening again.
Well, those are things that show that these background checks, if everyone wants to seize upon a particular strategy and just assume, well, that's the golden strategy right there. Look at what happened in the Santa Fe shooting. A background check had no relevancy whatsoever because the killer took the gun from his parent. Look at what happened in the shooting in Sutherland Springs. There was a background check that was done. It was done in a flawed way that allowed the killer to get a gun. And so anyone who suggests, well, maybe we should focus on background checks as opposed to mental health, I suggest to you is mistaken. If there's anybody here who thinks we have perfect health care in this country, in this world, they're wrong. If there's anybody who thinks that we can't do more to address mental health care, they're wrong. They can. We can. And we're going to. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes.
I'd like to know what you said last year now about what the experts process by the commander. Why did you make the decision not to go there?
several things. One is that this is an ongoing investigation and that there have been obviously new facts and information surfaced, revealed as a result of that investigation that are different today than they were 2 days ago. Second, there will be ongoing investigations that detail exactly who knew what when, who was in charge of what strategy, why was that particular strategy employed, why were other strategies not employed. Bottom line would be, why did they not choose the strategy that would have been best to get in there and to eliminate the killer and to rescue the children? Tell me how you doing, man.
I'm doing great.
Good.
In a very respectful way, Governor, would you consider, this is a kid, 18 years old, would you consider this a man, an 18 years old, being able to buy an AR-15? That's all I'm asking.
So, it's my understanding, Texas has been a state. An 18-year-old has had the ability to buy a long gun, a rifle. Right. And since that time, it seems like it's only been in the past decade or two that we've had a century and a half. 18-year-olds could buy rifles. And we didn't have school shootings, but we do now. Maybe we're focusing our attention on the wrong thing, and we're focusing it on...
I'm not doing it politically. My colleagues are asking for a special session. You're getting a letter tomorrow. The Senate Democratic Caucus. We've asked for budget control changes. I'm asking you now to bring this back. I apologize for interrupting the press conference about the needs of this community. I've been here for 3 days. All of these legislators, this county judge worked his ass off. Mayors, help people. I don't know how to express the loss of the family without talking to them. But I know you people have to do something there. Your own college are telling me, calling me, telling me that 18-year-olds should have how to do it. This is all back.
Next question.
All this back.
Next question. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Speak up.
On that earlier question about the Uvalde what is the status of the employment? I think they stood down under...
Can I was unable to hear the first part of your question. Would you restate it?
Of his employment, has he been stood down pending investigation? What is the situation?
Okay, so every act by every official involved in this entire process is under the investigation conducted both by the Texas Rangers and by the FBI. Every act of all of those officials will be known and identified and explained to the public. But I cannot overemphasize enough, we need to get that information to the families of all these victims who deserve to know the most. As far as his employment status is concerned, that's something that is beyond my control and I have no knowledge about. Go for it. Sure.
What do you plan to do to hold the local police accountable? We're talking about 40 minutes not in the classroom. Is there anything on your end that you can do to hold the police accountable?
You know, as the governor said, I'm not in law enforcement. I have not. I'm the mayor of the city, and once we know what took place, what went down, we'll get to the bottom of it and see. I've been just as confused as you are because as the governor was, I got the same information that the governor got, until yesterday afternoon. I was blown away, and then again this morning, other information. So I don't have an answer for you yet, but I can tell you if we need to make changes in that, we will.
Governor, you're asking, you're making mental health more available. Governor, we have one question. Come on. That's it? That's it.
Please make your way out. Thank you for coming.
Live from Uvalde, Texas, Governor Greg Abbott, who said he was misled at the outset of the investigation when he was saying things about what happened on Tuesday in that community that it turns out did not happen. He said he is livid about what did happen, perhaps a reference to an earlier press conference by state police in which they revealed there was a 35-minute gap between the time a tactical team arrived on scene and the time they were able to breach the classroom to neutralize the threat of the shooter, believing falsely that children were no longer in danger. The governor said it is inexcusable that families suffered from inaccurate information, some of that delivered by the governor himself when he in fact praised law enforcement actions as having saved additional lives, which perhaps they did in terms of rescuing people, but he clearly believes that he was misled by law enforcement at the outset. He also said, when he was asked a number of times about access to guns, he preferred to talk about mental health services. He said none of the laws he signed recently to make Texas more permissive in terms of its gun laws were of any relevance in this particular situation. And for the second time at a press conference by the governor this week, he was interrupted, the first time by gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke, and here by Roland Gutierrez, the local state representative, who appears to have pressed him on the need for an AR-15 by an 18-year-old. And there is the state representative outside talking to reporters now.
Never thought that in my district, my message would be so true. What this man is doing is not right. And it hasn't been right for a long time. And Republican constituents, they want responsible gun solutions. I'm a Democrat, and I've got a lot of Republicans calling me, and they don't want to see this anymore in their communities.
Do you think the chief of police needs to resign?
The state representative Roland Gutierrez speaking outside of the governor's press conference after interrupting him. The governor did not respond to anything that the state representative had said to him about the need for an 18-year-old in his community to have access to an AR-15. Governor Abbott said that 18-year-olds have been able to buy long guns since Texas has been a state, and it's only recently where it's become an actual problem. He did also address, when asked by reporters about some of his misstatements earlier in the week, and in case you missed it, here's what he said.
I was misled. I am livid about what happened. I was on this very stage 2 days ago, and I was telling the public information that had been told to me in a room just a few yards behind where we're located right now. I wrote down hand notes in detail about what everybody in that room told me in sequential order about what happened. And when I came out here on this stage and told the public what happened, it was a recitation of what people in that room told me, whether it be law enforcement officials or non-law enforcement officials, whatever the case may be. And as everybody has learned, the information that I was given turned out in part to be inaccurate. And I'm absolutely livid about that.
Governor Greg Abbott from moments ago. For more, let's bring in ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. Mary Alice, the governor says he wants the families to have accurate information, and he said it is unacceptable that they were given some inaccurate information.
Yeah, he didn't really take responsibility there. He said that he was given bad information himself. He said he hopes that law enforcement does conclude their investigations, that they're able to provide accurate information to the families about what exactly happened that day and the decisions that were made. He clearly, you could hear the upset in his voice. He felt betrayed and upset that he was given bad information, and understandably that the parents deserve to know the facts of that day. You know, I was struck, like you said by how often he came back to the need and the call for mental health services. He didn't get any real tough questions there about how under his tenure, mental health services have really been gutted in that state, especially in rural Texas. There is such limited access to mental health services. And I'm curious, you know, when he was asked whether anything will come from this, any new laws, any new programs, he said he imagined so. I wonder if that will, in the end, be more money or more funding for mental health services. Right now, we know that compared to other states, Texas ranks every year near the bottom when it comes to access to mental health.
And yet, Mary Alice, the governor did say that the status quo is unacceptable. The status quo in Texas, as he was asked about repeatedly, includes permissive gun laws, including some legislation that he had signed very recently, although he said none of that would have been relevant to this situation.
You're right. I mean, in the last few years, we've seen Governor Abbott make it easier for people to buy more guns faster and carry them wherever they want. He signed a law that would allow for permitless concealed carry, even though that's really controversial. And we you know, national polling and also state level polling has shown that a lot of people don't approve of that. Even gun owners very leery of the idea of permitless concealed carry. But you heard him there, just like you said, say that he's not convinced that any of those laws would have mattered here. That's something that we often hear from Republicans. They'll say, you know, that what would have stopped this shooting or that shooting, that the circumstances around each one is different. Of course, what we hear from Democrats is, let's try something, let's try anything. You know, right now you can see some of our recent polling that 89% of Americans in our latest poll support universal background checks. You know, this real hunger in the country for maybe something like red flag laws, for any kind of gun safety legislation. I think that the American people know that doing nothing hasn't worked and hasn't helped.
ABC's Mary Alice Parks, our White House correspondent, our thanks to you. And Governor Abbott also said today, just like the rest of us, he's wondering why law enforcement in Uvalde did not choose the strategy that would have been best to go in there, leaving those vulnerable children vulnerable for 35 excruciating minutes. Going to have continuing updates right here on ABC News Live throughout the day. A complete wrap-up comes up tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC News Prime. Thanks for joining us. I'm Aaron Katersky in New York. Good day.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.